At Automasters LLC, our mission is to serve our community by providing quality automobiles at affordable prices. All of our vehicles are inspected and certified to offer you the confidence in knowing you have a quality vehicle. Our goal is to provide you with a seamless process and positive experience for your automobile purchase. Financing recommendations and specific vehicle inquiries are available at your request. You can find us at www.automasters06.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Also, please feel free to contact Terrence Miles at 601-927-7794. And oh yeah, tell him Sonia sent you.
She say sports. She say sports. She say sports. She say sports. She say sports.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Sonia, and welcome back to She Say Sports and our segment, Kelsey's Corner. Please welcome back award-winning journalist and host of Listen In with KNN, Kelsey Nicole Nelson. Hello, Kelsey. It's been a
Hi,
long
thank you.
time.
It has been a while, but look, anytime I see Sonia Stamp's name in my inbox, I have to respond, and you know I'm going to be back. So it feels so good to be back. Thank you for having
Thank
me, and
you.
excited to talk the latest in this crazy sports world that
I
we have.
know it's been a lot going on. I mean, last month I did Women's History Month, and so I was just dealing with entrepreneurs in the community, but
Love it.
it was so much going on, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" So of course, you're the first person I had to call. I was like, "I gotta get my girl back."
I
So
love it.
Kelsey, speaking of last month, March Madness was marching and maddening. Oh my
My
gosh,
gosh.
the
My
madness of
gosh.
March. It was a lot. We had some great games, upsets, and some Cinderella stories, but truly all eyes were on women's basketball.
Yes, finally, finally.
Finally, guys, we're not slighting you, but it was kind of, I
Women
don't
were
even
just
really,
doing it a little bit better this year.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's been so exciting. And I'm usually not, I've gotten more into girl basketball, women's basketball in the last few years, but I've also always been a man's basketball.
Really? I would
Oh
not
my
take that
gosh,
from you. I would not take
always.
that from you.
I used to say I don't like chick ball, but I love,
What?
oh
See,
yeah,
I'm opposite because I guess maybe because I played basketball, so for me,
see,
it's
that's the
always
difference.
it's been close to heart. And when I tell you, like, so it's been so special for me to watch because I've covered basketball for women on the high school level, on the collegiate level. You know, even going to a school like Maryland where women's basketball has been great so long. I remember not seeing it full and get its justice. And so for me, just to watch that tournament, it just felt like
It's
fun. And I did
amazing.
It's been incredible. I both my papers in college. I did one in undergrad on women's basketball growing and one in grad school. And finally, my papers, I feel like have come to life, with what we've seen in March Madness. So it's been
And you know
exciting.
what? That makes a lot of sense because I did not play basketball. I loved it, because I watched my dad.
Yeah.
I'm a Bulls fan since I was 5, DePaul Blue Demons, and North Carolina since I was a little
Yeah.
girl. So it's always guys. But now I'm
The ladies
switching
have
up.
taken over.
Ooh, those girls were balling. But before we get into what we really came to talk about, I want to give a shout out to the Jackson State Lady Tigers and Coach Tamika Reed and her staff. When I say
Amazing.
an amazing season again, stellar performance all season long. You guys were unbeaten, and you
Yeah.
played against legendary UConn coach, Coach Gino
Yeah.
Mariami, and he gave some amazing, amazing thoughts about her. And
Love it.
like he said, didn't it doesn't matter what conference you come from. If you go unbeaten, you doing some things around here.
That's huge.
It is huge, and I mean, I'm so proud of her. Not only is she my friend, she's my soror, and you're
Oh,
doing
love
some
it.
amazing things, and I'm just looking forward to what the future holds. I am so excited for her future. It's so bright, so
I
bright.
love it. And it was just so good to see HBCUs, in the spotlight. So Sonia knows my dad is the biggest Grambling State fan. So,
Yes,
we get to watch that game. And much like Jackson State, they had to play a Goliath, right?
yes, and they
And
did
Purdue,
amazing.
who made it
Right.
all the way, of course, to the
Who
national
made it all the way?
championship game.
Yeah.
So at least they can say, hey, we lost to a team, right? That was in the, but I just think what they were able to do. And if you remember that game, I think actually exposed Purdue because Grambling
Yes.
at the first half, it was a
Mhm.
lot closer than anybody thought.
It
And you
was
already saw the
very
major
close.
size difference. So all in all to say, I think HBCUs, it was amazing to watch. I think I'll say other people get exposed to HBCU sports, right? Because we've
Yes,
known
because
about
we
them,
know,
we've
we
watched
know.
them, we've supported them, but I think it's for everybody else to kind of to see that because you think about it, I think it's in the men's game. I think it's been when this tournament came, it had been 19 HBCUs that had actually taken place against, of
Mhm.
course, other schools in that first round of the tournament. So just think about that. Like that's not many, right? So to actually be
Amazing.
able now on this level to have, you talked about Jackson State, I talked about Grambling State, and have it was 4 HBCs, right? I think that made it all the
Mhm.
way. I mean, it was just really exciting to see.
It really was. I was so proud. And tell your dad, I was even I was rooting for Gremlin. I was so proud of them. They
Wanted
did
them to
really
take it.
well. I mean,
Yes,
that
that
was
first
a
half
close
was
game.
close.
Yeah. So
I mean, there's
shout
only
out,
so much you can do against Zach Edey.
right. Shout out to all SWAC schools, HBCU schools. It's just, we're proud of you. Thank you so much for continuing to just push forward and show them that, we can do it too. So that's
Yes,
awesome. So let's move on to the game at hand. Oh, wow. Sunday, South Carolina Gamecocks versus Iowa Hawkeyes. This game was the game to see. The
yes.
Gamecocks went on to win that game 87-75, and Coach Staley and the Gamecocks became the first team to have complete a perfect season since UConn in 2016, and they're the 10th team. It was 9 teams before, and I think UConn was like 3 or 4 times. This is also the Gamecocks' third title win under Coach Staley. Um, what an amazing year that they've had.
Yeah.
Kelsey, what are your thoughts on this season? What was different from last season? I think they lost maybe 1 or 2 games. I can't remember from last year, but what are your thoughts on this Gamecock team?
First off, Don Staley's record, like the amount of games she's won to the amount of games she's lost, it's unreal. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
who does this? Are you human? Like, how is she doing this? And I
yeah,
think you remember how many players she lost last year, right? To the
yeah,
WNBA draft. We get to see one of them all the time, with the Las Vegas Aces. Of course, she's and Asia Wilson. Of course, she was
right.
previous, but still, like you think about these great players that have come from Don Staley lineage, right? And I think it's been exciting. And so I think a lot of people had counted them out. Last year was their year. They ended up losing, and a lot of people wanted to write Don Staley off. And she gave us the ultimate Gino quote back, that tried to write me off. I didn't write back. And, I think what's so beautiful about Dawn is I love that, I know some people tried to cause controversy with it, but first off, I think what hadn't changed, Sonia, is her commitment to her Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And
Oh,
I love
yes.
that she
She
shouted
made
it out.
sure.
Yes, she made sure. And,
No,
uncommon favor that she talked about, I thought that was so
when she
beautiful
said
to
that,
see.
oh my gosh. Oh,
I felt it. I felt it. But then her team, you could just see the bonds with them. I mean, from Tessa Johnson, who went off in that game as a
yes.
freshman, to Raven Johnson, who obviously didn't have the most offensive game that she wanted, but who was able to really lock down on Caitlin Clark,
Mhm.
and really obviously make it tough for Caitlin after that game started slow for South Carolina. Because at first you were like, hold up, wait a
Yep,
minute,
getting a little nervous.
a lot of people were nervous. And Camila Cardoso, who I immediately said in the game, she's going to be a game changer. I said Iowa cannot compete with her size and her strength.
She's a
So much fun. And she's just grown so much this year. Chloe Kitts, what she has, I don't think she gets enough props, for that South Carolina team. She was able to step up and make some big baskets. But really what I see, this team, you can tell they love each other, Sonia. Like they're not afraid to share
Yeah,
the ball. They want other people to win. And I just
right.
thought that was a beautiful thing to see. And honestly, they've been a second half team. I tweeted this before. I was like, yeah, don't worry about the first half. South Carolina, we saw this in that LSU game. I don't know what Don Staley says in that locker room, but it
I
works.
know
Because
it.
the second
Everything
half,
turned around.
the second half, they come out and they look like South Carolina basketball. And again, but I
Yeah.
think also it was important because what would people have said if they lost this game? Who cares about an unbeaten record if you don't win it all, right? I mean, the only thing that complements going undefeated is a championship. Otherwise,
That's
nobody
it.
cares. Why did you do it? Right. So the fact that they were actually able to put that cherry on top of the sundae, I just thought it was beautiful. And to do this with a Black woman coach who now has inched her way up with the greats. And you think about she's in a company of, again, the greatest of the greats in the game. I know we're going to
Yeah.
talk about them in later on in the show. It means something. And for her to be a Black woman doing this. And I mean, Dawn has accomplished on every level as a player, herself, as a coach, herself. I mean, it literally is Dawn Staley's world that we're living in. And it's been
Yeah.
so beautiful to watch. And you can see the love that her players really do have for her. Like, this team is just special. And I just think it was so beautiful to see Sonia on full display. So honestly, I think what changed is obviously the players changed, some of the players changed, but what stayed the same was their commitment to Dawn, and they knew they had unfinished business. I love what Raven said, this is the revenge tour,
It's a
and the
revenge
revenge tour
story.
was
And
capped.
when I say she got her revenge, and you mentioned one of the freshmen, but the freshies, they were playing like experienced
Playing.
upperclassmen.
Yeah,
The bench was hot. I mean, it was like
that was a difference
everybody was
maker.
in sync. It was like everything was clicking. Everything was clicking. And it
Beautiful.
was just amazing to watch. Now you mentioned if they hadn't won, nobody really was talking about them being unbeaten, really. And don't get me wrong, and I'm gonna get to her, but I will say this now. They talked more about Caitlin and her last game after the game when it was their time to talk about Don
Yeah,
and the Gamecocks. And you know how media is sometimes. We have eh, they have their people that they
yeah.
want to win. So it's like, yeah, they won, but this is Caitlin's last career game and this and
Yeah.
that and blah blah blah. And that was pissing me off because I'm like, okay, we're gonna give Caitlin her time. This is not her time right now, but it is what it is.
Wow.
So that
No, but you're
game,
right though. It was sad to say. I mean, because you think about the greatness that we saw, whether it was Bree Hall or one of my favorite players, Malaysia Fulwiley, Sonia to
yes,
watch, who is like, just full of energy and brings it every time she's on the court. And let me say this, like Caitlin and what she did this year was incredible, right?
it
We
was
don't
incredible.
normally.
And I'm gonna get to what she did later, but go ahead. Yeah,
Yeah. But all that to say, in the moment, this was South Carolina's
it
moment.
was South Carolina's
It's
moment.
the same
Period.
reason why, the White House shouldn't have called Iowa last year, also inviting them to the White House, when LSU won. So all that to say, I think we need to recognize champions in their moment. And I feel like whenever this year, it's always been and Caitlin, when sometimes
Yes,
it should be or Caitlin. This was
correct.
South Carolina's moment. Now, if you're writing a piece on Caitlin, okay, great. But South Carolina won the championship. And as
They won
great
the
as Caitlin was,
championship.
unfortunately, she didn't get the ring. Right. And then that just is what it is. All that to say, like I said, this team for South Carolina, they deserve better. They deserve attention more. And as media members, I think there does need to be accountability on the
Correct.
moment in time. Right. Because nobody was talking about, when UConn won for the men's side, they won. And, of course, Zach Edey, there's NBA pieces, but it was more so about UConn. I didn't keep seeing Zach Edey tied to every time, they
Correct.
talked about UConn. So I'm just saying, like, let's
It's an
just give
agenda.
the
It's an agenda. It's and we have to just see through that. And I'm glad that people are still, she's getting her roses. I mean, because what they did, and then they made history. So it was not about her, and especially about history. According to ESPN, national championship game between South Carolina and Iowa smashed ratings records after averaging 19 million views. 19
crazy.
million views. And the guys' game on Monday, UConn versus Purdue, they had 14 million views.
Isn't that crazy? And remember, it
That's
peaked at 24
bananas.
million. It peaked at 24 million for the women. My gosh.
That's crazy.
Like, we were all part of history watching that game.
All part of history. I'm getting
Sports bars
goosebumps.
had it on. I mean, it was a beautiful moment.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful. And, it's just, whew, I don't know. It was great to see. I'm glad I was able to see it and witness just an amazing game because it was a top-notch game. It's an instant classic. I'm glad for these young ladies. They did a wonderful job. including Hawkeyes. They did a great job, and their coach, Coach Linda, Lisa or Linda?
Lisa. Yep. Lisa
So,
Blender. Hmm.
so speaking of Caitlin, throughout the playoffs, throughout the season, it's, Caitlin name, as we just mentioned, has been coming up, and it's good for her name to come up because she has done some
She's balled
amazing
out.
things in
Yeah.
college career. In NCAA tournament stats, Caitlin owns the records for women's Division I tourney all-time play on all these lists: 491 points, 152 assists, 78 three-pointers. And she has a slew of awards throughout her college career. And I'm
Yes.
just going to name two,
She's
including
racked them up.
two-time NCAA All-Tourney and three-time Big Ten Player of the Year. And many have been calling her the GOAT of women basketball, but we know there are some amazing players that came before Caitlin that are real GOATs, and she's on their shoulders. Don't get me wrong, and I believe she will be one of the GOATs overall in women's basketball.
Yeah,
Just as Coach Staley said, she's one of the GOATs, and she's lifted our sport.
for
And
sure.
she said that Caitlin will lift the WNBA league as well.
So classy too of Coach Staley to say
So
that. I
classy. It was
love that.
amazing. I loved it. So as you know, Caitlin is going to the WNBA this year.
Yeah.
Do you think Caitlin would do for the WNBA as she did for women's college basketball?
I think we're already seeing the Caitlin Clark effect. I mean, we
Yeah.
saw recently, if you're following WNBA, we see the amount of national games now that the WNBA has.
Mhm.
I can't tell you how many times when WNBA season come, I get so many questions about WNBA League Pass and people not knowing how to access it, all these different things. So I think we see that already because she's projected to be the #1 pick going to the Indiana Fever. We see ticket prices that we have not seen, right?
Never.
Games. So I think Caitlin's impact has honestly already started on the WNBA. I think also, I do think we are going to see her fans transition over because we live in a world now where I think it used to be you followed teams, right? I love Iowa. I love
Yeah,
now because of NIL and the transfer portal and all this stuff, you really follow players. And so I
that's
think
true.
where Caitlin goes, she will have a fan base. Now, I don't think Caitlin is going to be getting the numbers that she had in college. Let's remember, I think, people keep saying Diana Taurasi is hating. No, Diana Taurasi is keeping it real. Maybe some
Mhm.
folks aren't used to that, but the WNBA, you're playing women who have played overseas. You're obviously playing veterans, and the
Yeah,
overseas women's basketball game, if you've never seen it, it's a whole different level of basketball competition. And then I think, again, there's only so many roster spots, remember, in the WNBA. That's why we keep talking about WNBA expansion. We need more teams. So
yeah.
all that to say, I mean, you're playing for girls who are hungry for this, right? And they're just waiting for you. They're licking their chops. They're going to bring it. So all that to say, I think she will add. I think she'll be fun to watch. I think people forget though she's a rookie. And so there's going to be a learning curve again, even though I think
Yeah,
she's great. But I do think she's already amazing for
she
WNBA
is.
basketball. Like I think in terms of the, people should get in the seats, the people she'll have following the game. I can't wait to see the WNBA draft numbers. I feel like we're about to break another record this year with that.
Right.
Because I mean, you have her, you have Angel Reese, I mean, you have Carmela Cardoso, Cameron
This is
Brink.
some.
I mean, we got some big names, right?
And
Already at the WNBA draft. So all that to say, I do think Caitlin will have a big impact on the
Mhm.
WNBA, which is honestly what I think she wanted. That's what she's saying. Like, college is done, but I still got basketball, and she loves the game, and I
That's
think
right.
people will follow.
And speaking of the draft, I've seen a couple of mock drafts, and
Mm,
one of the mock drafts I saw yesterday, they had Cardosa and Angel Reese with Chicago Sky. So I was like, oh, I mean, those are two big women,
yeah, too
big
big.
women in the post. So, but I would love to see it. I mean, but I don't think that'll work. But speaking of Caitlin and what she's doing. A few weeks ago, Ice Cube reached out via I don't know if it was just via, well, I know
Yeah,
he did it on social media. I don't know if he actually talked with her, but he invited her to come and play for the Big Three. So,
yeah.
we've talked about the Big Three in the NBA having issues last season. Do you think that if she's allowed to with her contract with the WNBA, do you think she'll actually play for the Big Three?
Ice Cube is a businessman. It's the Jay-Z line, I'm a businessman.
Yeah.
And that's what Ice Cube is. So, when this happens, like I immediately thought, okay, he gets it. He
Yeah,
gets
he
it.
gets
Caitlin
it.
Clark is a way to bring attention to the league. Will it
Mhm.
help Caitlin to play with former players? I don't think so, and this isn't, men. I think Caitlin Clark will do more for the Big Three than the Big Three can do for her.
Okay.
And that just is what it is, in my opinion, right? So I think it was good in terms of it made people talk. It makes her more attractive because now I'm sure the WNBA is looking. I'm sure folks overseas are looking like, dang, like, she's already, she's kind of almost done something
Right.
impressive, right? We hadn't seen this before. But I don't think in actuality that would have ever happened. Caitlin is in the prime of her basketball career. And this is no offense
Yes.
to the big three, but the WNBA would be the best viable option for her right now in terms of continuing her professional career.
Understood. I understand. I can see that. You mentioned Bayou Barbie earlier, Angel Reese, and I'm really looking forward to seeing her thrive and flourish in the WNBA. I
She's
don't want
another
it to
great
be
ad.
she's
Yeah.
yeah, I don't want it to be about I want it to be about basketball for her because she is a different player. I love the fact that she's a girly girl. She likes to dress up and I love that. But I want her to.
Yeah.
I don't want the media and just try to concentrate on other things. Concentrate. I mean, I don't understand. I mean, she is not a bad person, but she knows how she feels and she means what she says, and that's okay.
Yeah. I
So
see. I feel like this though for Angel Zonia. I feel like Angel Reese gets it. She's a marketing machine. She's a
she's a
marketing.
marketing machine.
And
Yeah.
so all that to say, I think Angel knows what she brings on the basketball court, and she knows it's going to cause controversy, and she knows what she's going to get to it. But that's her, as her merchandise says, being unapologetically herself. And so for me,
Yeah.
I don't mind it because if anything, I think again, we live in a time where, to me, Angel is going to be bigger than basketball. To me, I
Mhm.
see Angel Reese maybe on a reality show in the future. Like, I think she's going to be able to do so many things. I think she's going to continue to build her brand and her line because she's a personality that's bigger than
Yeah.
basketball. You think about the Dennis Rodmans of the world. I'm not saying she's Dennis Rodman, but bigger than basketball,
I know what
right?
you mean. Yeah.
And Michael Jordan even, right? Bigger than just basketball. I think Angel Reese, has that. I mean, like her, love her or hate her, you're watching her and you have,
Yeah, you gotta
thoughts
watch
and
it.
feelings and questions about her. So if anything, I do think Angel is good because I think a lot of times, especially for a Black woman, they try to put us in these boxes and try to tell us how we're supposed
Correct.
to be. I love that Angel is breaking that down, especially as an athlete. Like, look, I grew up in Maryland. I played basketball in Maryland. Angel grew up here. Like, trash talk is everybody does it, right? Like, it
Right.
doesn't matter. But all of a sudden, when Angel does it, oh, it's not classy, and all these different things that
Right.
people try
And
to
no,
do.
and that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that. I like what she
I
brings.
get what you're saying. The focus on
Yeah.
basketball is what
I
I'm saying.
want I don't want the media tries to just focus on what she says. No, focus on the stats. Focus
On
on
her
what she's
skills,
done.
double
You know,
queen, SEC
correct.
Player of the Year. Like, give
Yeah.
her her
So that's what everything you said, ditto, I totally agree. She's going to be very, very good for the WNBA as well. And hell of endorsements that she'll be
My
getting. That's for
gosh,
sure.
yes.
So,
Her and
yeah,
Caitlin racking up the millions, not playboy,
right.
millions of dollars they're racking up.
Exactly. I mean, it's a great time for athletes right now. A great time. So, we're gonna move on. It was two major announcements in coaching world this week. The biggest one is Coach John Calipari as he steps down as Kentucky men's basketball coach after 15 years. The Hall
Gosh.
of Famer coach is to lead the Arkansas Razorbacks next season. AP News reports Calipari leaves a Wildcats program guided them to a 2012 NCAA championship among Final Four appearances. He went 410 and 123 in 15 seasons. And the past few seasons have been pretty disappointing,
Yeah.
but Calipari, he said he feels that the program probably needs to hear another voice. And I can, sometimes it's time to move on. And this
Yeah.
may be the best time for him. And the Wildcats' most recent loss set off an immediate call to fire Calipari before AD Mitch Barnhart said days later that Calipari would return next season.
Yeah.
So, what's interesting, Arkansas pursued Calipari 17 years ago. And, gave, when he was coaching in Memphis, but he decided to stay at Memphis. Then he moved on to Kentucky. Now he's there and reportedly has signed a 5-year deal worth $38.5 million with Arkansas. Kelsey, do you think this change is what Calipari needs with all the star power and top ranked recruiting classes he'll bring to Arkansas?
Look, college basketball has changed. It just
A
not even
lot.
college basketball, college athletics, right? In the last couple of years. And
Mhm.
there's an old saying that I think many of us realize, and it's not just for sports, but go where you're appreciated, not
Yeah.
tolerated. And I think at this point, I think he was being tolerated in Kentucky. You said it when when they lost in March Madness, where did everybody go? Dang, my gosh, here we go again with Calipari. And, I think folks were just done with John, honestly. And I think he knew he was and sometimes you need new, fresh blood, right? Like sometimes
Yeah.
something's got to change. And so I think this is a good switch up for him. I think he can revive an Arkansas basketball program.
Yeah.
You think about it, we're thinking about Southern teams. Obviously, Alabama has been good as of late. But Arkansas could use a little, I think. And I think with his coaching, resume. And again, if you're a good coach, you can recruit anywhere, especially again in the year of NIL. I mean, nowadays you can get a player to go anywhere if you can get them some money.
Anywhere.
Let's just be real
Yeah,
about it.
that's true.
So all that to say, I think it was kind of a shock though, like the timing, like because when we heard he was coming back, I think people had just accepted it, like, okay, well, we're just gonna have more John. Nothing's like change. Then all of a sudden it's like, wait, he's going to Arkansas, and then you're like, wait,
Yeah.
well, it's like you're thinking about the future of Kentucky basketball, which of course Kentucky basketball, I have a student in my class actually right now from Lexington, and she said it's basketball, like that,
Yeah.
he has a cafe after him there, and like they live for that basketball. If you're going to Lexington, it's basketball and the Derby. Like
Yeah. And Kentucky grass and bourbon.
right, right. Like that's what you're so for that to like I think John Calipari's name was synonymous with Kentucky basketball, but now all of a sudden you're moving.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a new era, but I'm excited for it. And I
Me
think
too.
it's good for both. It's like that mutual breakup, where both of y'all
Yeah.
are benefiting. And I think that's the promising thing for both. But
Mhm.
I wish him the best. But I do think it was a good move because I do think he kind of almost overstayed the Kentucky basketball because I think
Mhm.
the bar was going to be so high for him this year. And I don't know if he was going to do it. Like again, in the world of recruiting, like it's hard. And the bar for
Hard.
Kentucky, they won a championship at Kentucky. I'm not going to sit here and say I thought John Calipari was going to win a championship next year. I'm
Mhm.
just not. Like I'm looking at a school like UConn, a true blue blood, how good they looked. How good Dan is. Like I didn't see that for John. So I like the move, and I wish him the best at
Yeah, I
Arkansas.
wish him well. We would definitely be watching next season. I'm excited to see what happens, and not expecting him to win a championship the first year, but I'm
No,
just
growing
ready.
pains.
Right. I'm excited to see how it goes for him. I wish him well. And
Yes.
earlier this week after we heard that, and Rod and I talked about Coach VanDerveer, Tara VanDerveer,
Mhm.
a couple
Yeah.
of months ago when she became the winningest coach. And I told him, then I'm like, where else is there for her to go? I mean, she's won
Right.
so many titles. What happens now? And I was like, it's time to retire. Well, after 30th
All of
season,
it.
uh,
Yeah.
Stanford's women coach Tara VanDerveer has announced her retirement. She was named the winningest coach this year, surpassing former Duke Blue Devils coach, Coach K. I cannot pronounce his name, with
We all say
1,200,
Coach K.
right, with 1,216 wins. And Coach Gino Ariami is just 3 wins behind her. So,
Yeah.
he just turned 70 a few weeks ago. Actually, his birthday was the day they played Jackson State.
Love
And I'm
it.
like, will he, he hadn't announced that he was about to retire, but I'm like, I'm wondering if he'll just go one more season just to, get that prize for a minute because we don't know who's coming next. But my question to you, Kelsey, is who, if she could pass the torch to anyone right now
Ooh.
in women's basketball, who do you think that she would pass the torch to?
I feel like the obvious answer has to be Don Staley. I mean, like, and you know what? I don't think everyone knows Tara's greatness. I think we
Yeah,
live in a world where, unfortunately, it's a recent. People always just remember what's happened recently, right? And they have selective amnesia, and they don't want to
right.
remember the history. And she's one I encourage everybody, if you don't know what she's done for women's basketball and the players that she's helped to produce, and the program, that she has helped to lead at Stanford. I mean, Stanford women's basketball. I'm always thinking about Tara there, right? And coach, I mean, she's been there so long. I mean, she's been there longer than I've been alive, Sonia. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
that's what I've known, right? And so I
that's true.
think, but like you said, I think there comes a time, when I'm sure it was you mentioned Coach K earlier. I'm sure, I mean, it comes a time when there's only so much more that you can do.
There's so
And
much you
I'm a
can
big
do.
person in lifting as you climb. and that we stand on the shoulders of giants to whom much is given, much is required. And eventually, I think you have to realize in life, like you said, when it's time to hand that baton off. And I think the good thing, remember, she's not completely gone from the program. She's still going to be involved in that athletics department,
Yeah.
still be a voice, which I think is really promising
Mm-hmm.
for Stanford. But you look at Stanford this year, and again, another team heartbreaking loss, and like
Yeah.
Cameron Brink and what that Stanford team, was able to do this year. And kind of like we just said with Coach Calipari, I think sometimes, it's just that new fresh blood, that
Yeah.
comes in. She's been doing it a long
A
time.
long time.
Just
That's like
38 seasons at
it's a
Stanford.
marriage. People have been married for 38 years.
That's what
Like
I'm saying.
yeah, people
And it's like she
have,
had a life before Stanford, like
yes,
Idaho,
she
Ohio State.
did.
Like, she's been a long time. So
A
I'm
long
happy for
time.
her. And I really do
I
hope
am
like
too.
this next stage of her life brings her some happiness and joy. But I think the obvious answer is I think you have to hand it off to Coach Staley. Now, of course, I'm excited for who Stanford is going to be in the hands of. I know she's handing it off to a coach that has actually been with her the past 17 seasons. So, she's handing off
Wow.
to a coach that, knows her and how she coaches and is a
Correct.
player of hers. But all that to say, like, I think Coach Staley's I got an obvious answer when we think about women's basketball, because Gino's already, I think he's already kind of been cemented, right? And he's
Yeah.
getting respect. And if we're honest, I mean, Gino's a white man, right? Like the way he's looked at is much different than the way that Coach Staley,
Correct.
right, is looked at. So
Mhm.
I don't know their relationship, but I hope it's a good one, because again, both of them are just amazing, amazing women.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, it looks like Stanford will be in good hands. Congratulations to Coach Tara and the lady Stanford coaching staff and their team. I wish her well.
Yeah.
And and she'll probably she'll be working with the athletic department, so she won't get too
She's
rusty.
still there. She's not
Yeah,
complete.
she's still there. Last but not least, and this has been mixed emotions.
For a lot of folks.
Right. Some people are happy, ding dong, the witch is dead. Some people are sad because we remember him before that. I don't even think you were probably born. Everything
I
went
was a
down.
baby.
Baby. Well, OJ Simpson passed away earlier this week as well at the age of 76 years
Yeah.
old. OJ was a football running back, actor, and broadcaster. He played for USC and led the nation in rushing both years
Yeah.
under Coach McKay in 1967 with 1,453 yards and 13 touchdowns, and in 1968 with 188 yards on 383 carries. He played in the National Football League, of course, for 11 seasons, primarily with the Bills, and he is regarded as one of the greatest running backs of all time.
Yeah.
Kelsey, you were a baby, but as you know, he was acquitted in 1995 of the death of his ex-wife, Nicole Brown, and Simpson and her friend, Ron Goldman.
Yeah.
I remember, and I know the date because my niece was born the next day, June 17th, 1994. We're watching the NBA playoffs. Actually, and it's it was hot then. Michael, Alonzo Mourning, everybody. I mean,
All
this
those
is
folks.
like,
Yeah.
I mean, it was when ball was ball. It was an amazing time. We're watching the game, and they cut through the game because of the low speed chase with AJ Cal and OJ.
Yeah.
And I was angry about it because I'm like, who freaking cares? And then he was going slow. I mean, but the next day, I begged and prayed and asked God, please don't let my niece be born today, because my sister went in, she was having labor pains, but please don't
Wow.
let her be born, because I wanted to watch the game. But I remember when they did that, and I remember in 95 when he was acquitted that day, we left work at lunchtime because they told us the day it was a media frenzy. It was
Yeah.
a media
Oh,
frenzy.
yeah.
And the next day, they had told us the day before, because we didn't have cell phones and all that back then, and they were like, at 12:30, I guess they'll have the verdict. So we used our lunchtime and went to Walmart to watch the TVs in the electronics area. And it was
Yeah.
hundreds of people
I
there
remember
doing the
people would
same
do
thing.
that. Like you would stop at a store and watch some TV
Yes,
going
it was
on.
hundreds of people there. And when they announced that he was not guilty, the Black people screamed happy.
Yep.
White people were angry.
Yeah.
And today, all of these years later, it's kind of the same what's going on to, when he
Mm.
died. What are your thoughts on OJ, as a football player, first of all, as an actor, as a broadcaster? I thought he was amazing in all of them, but
Yeah.
what are your thoughts?
I'm glad you said that because right when I found out he passed away, which I think was a surprise to many, I don't think many of us even knew he had cancer and was, struggling
But
with
it was
that.
announced a few months. He said he was going to beat it, but it took him fast. So he probably
It's
had it.
sad. It's so sad. And again, prayers to everybody again who has either dealt with cancer or currently battling
Correct.
in the fight for cancer. That's what I first thought about. I said I have to separate him because immediately I was like, this is going to be a wild day on X because obviously many, many thoughts, on OJ. But so I'll actually tell you what I tweeted when he died. I said, gosh, the perplexity, OJ Simpson dying. He will always be remembered for USC football and as a Heisman Trophy winner, what he did on the gridiron, right? Then as a personality, as you
Yes.
I said he was intertwined in so many of our lives, for good or bad, as he
The
remains in the
bad.
public eye with the infamous case. So going back to your point, first I wanted to talk about the football part because that's how I was first introduced to OJ Simpson, right? I
Mhm.
first knew about his football greatness. Then I knew, of course, the case and stuff. But then, I think the other part of it, the OJ Simpson case is honestly what really made me. I always love sports, but that case was really why I love talking race and culture in sports and how it's intertwined. Because as you said,
Right.
what happened in that case and how polarized the country was, I don't think we had seen it on that level. I think people have to remember OJ was a Black man finding success at a time when this country was still not accepting Black people, but
Correct.
as we know, kind of gave him I guess you could say a pass in a way for
Mhm.
some because they liked OJ the athlete, right? And we all remember the infamous line, "I'm not
Right.
Black, I'm OJ," right?
Yep.
So all that to say, I think and even the case, I mean, you talk about what that did for Black lawyers. I mean, Johnny Cochran, and and you think about it was in LA and the police brutality going on at the time. Even in this case, some mishaps and stuff that had happened. Again, I had to put the football first, but also you can't separate him fully from that, right? I mean, none of us are separate from our past. When Jim Brown died, right, you're not separate from your past. Of course, Jim Brown wasn't as complex, I think, as OJ,
Right.
but all of that is part of the story, right? Anything that
Yeah.
happens to you is part of your narrative and story. So, I know the Heisman Trophy community and committee actually tweeted, that they're mourning the passing. I think some people were surprised by that. But again,
Really.
like you
Hmm.
said, the football part, you can't erase what he did
You
on the
can't
football
erase what
field,
he did on that
whether
grit.
you like him
No.
or not. And, OJ winning the
He was
Heisman,
amazing.
he was fantastic in college. If you're a college, even today, I mean, if you're an athlete and you want to be great, you're watching some OJ tape, right? Like it
Yeah.
just is what it is. So I'm glad you said that because I think immediately people go to the case, and I know that was part of his story, but
Mhm.
that's not the full OJ
That's
Simpson.
not the full story. No.
Yeah.
And, when I heard it, it saddened me because I remember when, before all of the stuff that happened, and rest in peace, Nicole and Ron.
Yes.
I was
Yes.
it was horrifying what happened to them. It was horrifying.
Yeah.
Who did it? I don't know. I don't know. Did he have something to do with? Did he know about it? I kind of think he did. I
Mm.
really, really do. But I remember, he used to have commercials. Your dad can tell you about this. He would be running through the airport, a Hertz commercial, trying to get to his car, and he would be jumping over bleachers and different stuff. I mean, because that's how he was a running back, and
He's
that's what we knew
amazing.
him for.
Yeah.
And he used to be on movies with Leslie Nielsen, and those are my favorite movies. And it's just
Yeah.
he was a broadcaster. He did some amazing things.
Multi-talented, obviously.
Multi-talented.
Multi-dimensional
I
man.
mean, I think he still would have been huge in the football world and in our world had that stuff had not happened.
Yep,
If,
I
if
agree with
that
you.
plot
But like
in
I said, you
history
can't
had not
remove
happened.
it,
Yeah,
but you also can't remove again what he did in the football
you can't
world,
remove it.
right? And
You
so,
cannot.
but that's why I'm sure there was many, so a lot of times people have like pre-written obituaries for folks, right? Does happen in the media. Usually,
Mhm.
of course, folks who are older, if they're battling something, because everybody wants to be the first to get it out.
Right.
I'm sure OJ's is probably one of the hardest to write,
Yeah.
just because
Oh,
again, he has a complex
complex.
it's just complex. There's so many facets and dimensions.
Mhm.
And and like you said, I mean, obviously I'm thinking of Nicole's family, but I'm also thinking about OJ's kids. I mean, there's a lot of people
He
who
has
were
family too.
impacted. Right. He has so there's so many people. That's why. So the first thing in my mind, I was really like, I need to choose my words wisely. I know there's some people wishing him ill and all these different things, but at the end of the day, to me, I mean, he was still somebody that passed away. And I like to think,
Right.
I just wanted to put him in that space. He's gone, right? Me saying
Yeah.
nasty things about him, that does nothing, right? That, at least to me, it does nothing. So, all in all, like, it was just, I think a lot of people just feeling mixed emotions today. And it was a weird day because it's like we start the day in the morning and it's like OJ Simpson. It didn't seem real at first. Like
It
OJ
did not
Simpson,
seem real.
like,
It
because
didn't
we've
seem
lived in
real.
a world where he's always in the news. Like, it's always something with OJ. So now to know he's not going to be in the news anymore because he's no longer with us, it was just a really weird feeling. But again, I hate to know that he was battling, when he went out of this world, with cancer. And again, I think of his kids and his family, and I do hope people respect their request for privacy at this time.
I agree. Somebody put on Instagram, well, there's his karma. I'm like, how's that karma? He lived 70 till 76. God promises us 70 years.
I'm about to say that's an amazing, especially for a Black man.
For a Black man,
76 is incredible.
That's incredible. So it's just like, it's whatever.
Yeah. I don't know, I'm just not an ill will person, I guess, but I'm
not either. I don't wish people ill will. I may get angry about something that you do, but I'm not gonna wish you to go to hell or die and all that.
That's just never been me either. I've just never been that.
It's just, I don't know. But my sincere condolences to his family and friends. Again, my sincere condolences again to Nicole Nelson and I'm saying Nicole.
I know. I maybe meant Simpson.
Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman's family. I'm sure they have a lot of mixed emotions as well.
I'm very sure they do. I pray that God keeps them comforted, during this time. So many emotions. I can't even imagine what.
It's crazy. I can't even imagine. Well, Kelsey, thank you so much for joining the show.
Thank you for having me. So much happening in the sports world. So
I know. But we play a little game, and I think you'll like this one. I think you played it before. It's what you know, and these questions are geared to really basketball coaches.
Let's see how I do.
Basketball. So, who is the first Black coach to win 3 Division I national championships?
3 Division I in basketball.
Mm-hmm.
John Thompson, right?
College basketball. Mm-hmm.
Am I right, John Thompson?
Don Staley.
Oh my gosh! And John. I have my own recency bias, obviously.
I should Georgetown.
Didn't win that many. See, my mind is so wrapped on Georgetown just for celebrating the victory of that 1984 team. Yes, Coach Don Staley. Amazing. And I hope that record's broke next year, honestly. I hope.
I know, that would be great.
Go Gamecocks. Sorry, Maryland.
Okay. What women's head coach won NCAA championship with both Baylor and LSU?
Let me give her the proper title, the infamous Kim Mulkey.
I love how she dresses.
Look, and her outfits are something.
I come out really, really nice. She know how to dress. What team did Coach Lisa Luter play for in college?
Let's see. I know her assistant coach played for Iowa. Did she also play for Iowa? Okay, good. So I knew her. I love it. Stay in full circle.
What coach played basketball at Louisiana Tech University at point guard 1980 to 1984? Now, you may not know that one.
This one I know. I'm trying to think. Okay, you said 1980 to 1984, and they're a current coach.
Louisiana Tech. Mm-hmm. She's a current coach.
I'm trying to think.
Louisiana Tech. Louisiana.
Now you're giving me some clues. It's not Kim. Is it Kim?
Yeah.
It's Kim. I was like, wait a minute. That's because I knew she played in Louisiana. I could remember Louisiana Tech. That's why that piece was so interesting that came out. Kim has also been doing it for a long time. I know
a long
way
time
about her, but she's legit.
She's very legit. Who was the first person to win the Naismith Award as both a player and as a coach?
And this is for women's basketball coaches.
Mm-hmm. Current.
Was it Tara? She said. Dawn, I feel like seems obvious. Is Dawn? Jeez, Dawn just has every. Let me just give her let me just check off every little box.
Right.
If it's not checked yet, it will be checked because I feel like that's
Was named one of the top 15 players in WNBA history.
Ooh, current coaches, one of the top 15 players. I guess, is it Dawn too? My gosh, Dawn is just the goat. She's amazing.
Right. Who was the first Black NCAA to have an undefeated season?
It has to be somebody before Dawn. Oh my gosh, I feel like I watch her on TV, and why am I forgetting her name?
It's
It was
Dawn.
Dawn? There was really nobody before Dawn?
The first
That's
Black
wild.
to have an undefeated season. Yeah,
That is wild. I mean, if you really let that sink in, that's wild.
that's crazy.
2024.
It's
Wow.
2024. Yeah. Last but not least, who won 3 Olympic gold medals with Team USA 1996, 2000, and 2004?
Current coaching. Oh my gosh. 2004. This can't be Dawn because she's older.
Oh, I do have one more. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah, it is Dawn.
It's Dawn too? Jeez. Okay, let me just say, the rest of your questions, I'm just going to say Dawn.
No, don't do that. Last one. As of 2021, who has led UConn to a staggering 11 NCAA titles, establishing a new record for the most national championships by a basketball coach?
Our guy, Gino.
I had to get one guy in there. That's my dude.
Yeah, we had to give the guy. And Gino honestly deserves a lot of credit and props because that UConn program he's built, I think UConn has been established as a dynasty, but give Don props because South Carolina is also a dynasty as well.
Dynasty now. But guess what? Did you think about this? I thought about it when Jackson State played UConn. I said, do y'all understand if Gigi had still been living, because she wanted to play for UConn, this would have been her freshman year.
Which is so sad. And it's so sad. And I feel like, unfortunately, that her legacy gets lost.
Yeah.
Kobe was a huge figure, but it's just so, and how much she loved the game. It's heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking.
And, really quickly, too, just you think about UConn, just shout out on their season. When you think about 7 players being available and what they were able to do. And, depending on how you felt about that referee call in that
crazy.
Iowa game, UConn could have been in the national championship.
That's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see UConn and Gamecocks. But,
Wow.
I didn't like that call. That was kind of crazy. But
really quickly, Sonia, before we end, I just want to make sure people understand this because I know the draft is coming up. Folks, there are 144 roster spots, right, in the WNBA. It is so hard. And think about the rounds in the WNBA draft. We're not talking football, right? We don't have that Mr. Irrelevant, right? So all that to say, I think about last year, I think about 15 of the players that were drafted made opening day rosters. Remember, the opening day could be different than the final roster. Yeah. It's a very competitive league. So all that to say, like I said, I think I'm so excited for the young women and girls, but WNBA, you gotta turn it up a notch. I don't think people give WNBA players their credit or props.
They don't.
Very hard to play in the WNBA and to keep your spot. People are coming.
That's true. We had a player, Williams. I can't think of her first name. She was from Jackson State. She was 2 years ago. She was the first player to get drafted to the WNBA from Jackson State since 2000.
Look at that.
She made it to Indiana Fever, but she got cut. So you're right. It's really, really
it's hard. It's so hard. A lot of times, you might have to go overseas. We have the new AU league, of course, here in the States. Still, it's hard, So again, just give the ladies props and their fair share and due because that is not easy.
It's not easy. It's not easy. Kelsey, thank you so much for joining me. Please tell the listeners how they can follow you on social media and listen In With KNN.
Yeah, so I'm so excited. Definitely check out Listen In With KNN. If you're a basketball fan, actually, I have NBA champion Sam Vincent coming up on my show. We're going to talk about, Magic and Jordan and so much we're going to touch on. So I'm so excited about that. But you can listen to my podcast. You can go to listeninwithknn.com. You can visit anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast. Just go ahead and hit that subscribe button, that download button, and check it out. Again, lots of amazing guests joining me all April long. We're preparing for WNBA draft, NFL draft. You can follow me on my personal website, KelseyNicoleNelson.com. My social media is The Real K Nelson, Facebook and LinkedIn, just Kelsey Nicole Nelson. And of course, the podcast, just follow at Listen In With KNN. Thank you so much. It's always good to join you.
Oh, awesome. This was a great show. I really enjoyed this. I mean, this is fun. There was so much going on, and I'm glad we got to get it in. But guys, you can follow me at She Say Sports on Facebook, She Say Sports 23 on Instagram, and please subscribe to our YouTube page, She Say Sports. Well, that's our show for today. Until next time, this is Sonia and Kelsey with She Say Sports and Kelsey's Corner.
Bye, guys.